So I'm so excited to welcome our very own Meg Alexander. She's going to be moderating this next talk. And to kick us off here, here's the topic for us. So are you hungry to reach your potential as a racialized or first generation professional? The bad news is being good at what you do is a start, but it is not enough. The good news is you can maximize your success if you learn to network, navigate the professional terrain, and negotiate everything. In this session, Samantha Wilson Jones, founder and CEO of Jules Advancing, Nurturing, and Empowering, Inc., Jane, will share tools and techniques to master the 3 N's of career success. So with that, I will pass it over to Meg and Samantha Wilson Jones. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Hunter. So happy to be here on the stage today. Samantha, I just want to say hi and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We didn't get into a bit of your background, but I just wanted to share with everyone in case they weren't aware. Jane is a nonprofit that you created in 2010. So y'all are going on 12 years of Jane at this point. Is there anything else that you would like our audience members to know about you or your background before we dive into questions today? Oh, it looks like we might have some trouble getting Sam's camera turned on. So Samantha, there we go. We see you.
Hello. Thank you for that introduction, and thanks for allowing us to be here. Very excited to have this conversation with you, Meg. Anything else to tell you about Jane? So while we did incorporate in 2010, we actually really got into operations in 2015, and then we went through a reboot in 2021 with everything that was going on in the world. So we're not quite actively 12 years old.
No, that sounds great. All right. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about to start off with is like Hunter described in the in the intro are the 3 N's of career success. Sorry. Could you tell us, kind of break it down for us, what those 3 N's are and why they're really essential to creating success, especially for people who come from racialized or first generation professionals? Sure.
So as Hunter explained, you have networking, navigating, and negotiating. So networking, we all have heard the proverbial spiel that it's about who you know, not what you know. So that's the networking piece of it. Navigating is really understanding those unwritten rules of the game. And then negotiating is 2-part. It's knowing and asking for what you want. And the knowing is probably more important than the asking. The asking becomes easy. Why it's so essential for racialized and first-gen students? Well, let's unpack that a little bit. That's a lot of terminology. We're talking about Black and brown individuals who are, for the most part, still in 2022. A lot of them are first-generation professionals or first-generation in one respect or another. So whether that be first-generation college student, graduate school student, or professional, just by the nature of being first-gen, they lack the benefit of exposure, guidance, and opportunity. That's what we affectionately refer to as positive ego. And so therefore, they're not necessarily set up for success. That road becomes a little bit harder. And I typically use myself as the example. I became a lawyer not because I had lawyers in my family or because I knew a host of lawyers. I became a lawyer because I saw Claire Huxtable on The Cosby Show. And if you know anything about The Cosby Show, Claire probably went to work maybe 5 times that you actually saw her working in the entire 8-season run. But it did something to me.
She was admirably around the family a lot more than you think, right?
You saw her go to work, but you didn't actually see her work. You saw her come home. But there were only maybe 4 or 5 episodes where she actually really worked. And those really made an impression on me at 8, 9 years old. And that was the exposure that I had to the law. And that's why I became a lawyer. So that exposure is really important. But I was a first-generation law student, so I stumbled my way through law school. And then when I got into my profession, again, not having those individuals around me who had that experience, I struggled to navigate the terrain. So I kind of had to go through my own bumps and bruises to figure out how to get it done. And therefore, I wasn't in a position of understanding and knowledge to be able to negotiate as well on my own behalf. So I'm kind of the anti-hero, if you will, in this story, where I wasn't able to do a lot of those things early on in my career and had to learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's important to highlight for people, you know, I mean, my husband, his parents did not go to college. And so when he went to college for about 6 months, decided it was not for him and wanted to join the military. And nobody knew to tell him, you have to drop your classes before you can withdraw. You can't just stop going. You have to say, hey, I'm not going anymore. And he had no idea. And it was not for like 6 or 7 years until he was like ready to go back and get his associate's degree. He shows up for classes and they're like, guess what? Your GPA is in the toilet.
Yeah.
And so like, and it's one of those things that is like, so it seems so simple, but like, if you don't have experience in that area, or you don't have family members or friends who've gone before you, there are things you are not going to get. There's things that are going to be an adjustment, or are going to be, you know, a surprise, things that you didn't think you had to plan for.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about, you know, obviously our theme for this month's summit is early career connections and mid-career pivots. Let's talk about what it looks like to try and build your professional network if you are just starting your career.
I won't say it's too late, but I will say you should start before that. Your professional network really starts in high school and even before that. So again, if you go back to our positive ego mantra, it's about exposure. You become what you see. And if you don't see it early on, you don't know that it's within the realm of possibility. So when you think about beginning that journey of networking and understanding your professional options and opportunities, it goes farther back in the pipeline. So for instance, with our programming, we tend to start with sophomores in high school, because that's the year before you're picking what could be a life-altering school, you know, or event, you know, whether you decide to go to college or you decide to go into the military or straight into a career. You're being asked to make those decisions at 16, 17 years old. And if you only can come from what you have exposure to and what you know. So I would say start early. For those of you who have children, nieces, nephews, et cetera, start now to build that. But once you're in your career, I will say, or at the precipice of your career, I will say social networking makes things a whole lot easier. I'm not a spokesperson. I probably should be a spokesperson for them, but LinkedIn is a wonderful, wonderful resource. You have the opportunity to do things on LinkedIn that I could have only dreamed about when I started my career. You can go search for a company and find people there and just randomly reach out to them and say, hey, saw you, interested in what you're doing, interested in what your company's doing. Can we connect? Even if only 1 out of 10 of them, 10 times someone makes a connection with you, that's still more of a connection than you had beforehand. So there are ways that you can leverage LinkedIn. You can find alumni that went to the same school that you went to. You can find people in industries that you're interested in or that you're belonging to. You can find people at your company. So if you work for a major corporation and people are spread out all over the world, you can reach out to people in that company. So leverage the social networking aspect. The other thing I would say, starting out early in your career, is mentors and coaches. And we'll get into it a little bit later in terms of how you should structure your mentoring relationships, because you should have more than one. But mentors and coaches are another way to advance your career and really set yourself up on a good trajectory when you get started. And then you can participate in programs like ours. We have programs for not just high school students and college students, but also for professionals, so that you can kind of have a structured approach. Because for a lot of people, you're going from a very structured environment of school, and someone's just dropping you into this corporation and saying, go, with no rules, no guidance, no plan of how you actually do that. So our programming actually kind of builds a little bit of a structure around you, so it's not culture shock going into that first role or those early career roles.
That's nice. Now, just as you know, as you were talking, something kind of was rolling around in the back of my head. If we are talking to people who are, early career, like we might have, college graduates, college students in here. When you're talking about developing that professional network and using your social network to do that, What does that look like if you have no idea what you might be doing in terms of a career? Is it literally just the social networking and getting to know a bunch of people? Or do you think that is there any sort of like professional element that needs to be worked in there?
I think it's both. So yes, you can just reach out and explore different things of interest to you and areas of interest. But I also think there's a lot of value and benefit to understanding who you are, how you learn, how you work, what you enjoy. And there are a lot of assessments that you can take. Several of them are available online. You can do Strength Finders, you can do Insights Discovery, DISC, Myers-Briggs, but all of those things help you understand yourself better and understand what your natural talents and gifts are. And then that can help you align better to a job. Most people think, oh, you become a lawyer because you like to argue. Some people do. But for me, yes, they're there. But if I think about myself, like I became a lawyer because I like to analyze things. I like to navigate new terrain and figure out a way to come up with a solution. I like problem solving. I like, and so these are all things that when I thought about the legal profession, those were things that I enjoyed, not so much the arguing, which is why I didn't become a litigator. So taking some personal assessments, and if you didn't get any in high school or college, again, you can go online and there are several versions that are free that you can find. But if you did take some in college, go back to those and see what you're good at, what you like, what you naturally gravitate toward, and try to focus on fields that might help you, might enhance those skills and highlight those skills.
I like that. We did get a question in from the chat, and y'all, I've got eyes on the chat too. So if you have questions or comments for our speaker, please feel free to send them into that chat. It's on the right-hand side of your screen. And I'm going in, I'm reading back to some of these, and this was absolutely wonderful. Mary had responded, we were talking about Claire Huxtable saying, you never saw her at work, but she was working all the time. All right. So Akira had asked, how do you transition from student to early career professional? What was this like for you when you experienced it?
My road was bumpy. So again, I'm kind of the anti-hero in the story. But how you go about doing it, as I said, you start early. If you're able to start while you're in college or high school is even better, you start to make those transitions. But I would suggest, one, having a professional mentor. So when you think about mentoring, people think a number of different things. You have, people who are more in the life coaching side of mentoring in terms of how are things going? How are you progressing? Just very broadly speaking. When I say professional mentoring, what I mean by that is a mentor who is helping you focus in on what you want to do in your professional journey and helping you navigate from where you are to where you want to be professionally. So that person may be saying some very unpopular things to you, like think about your social media accounts. What is it that you're posting? What are you saying? Think about how you're speaking. Yes, there's a vernacular that you may use when you're talking to friends and family. What's the language of your field, of your industry? Do you know that? Are you familiar with it? So somebody who's always focused on your career goal is a great person to have to help you transition into that area. Internships, obviously, is another great way to just get exposure and get visibility into the corporate or the professional environment into which you will find yourself. If you're not able to do an internship, job shadowing, being able to go in and follow someone as they perform their functions during the course of their day. Whether if you can go for multiple days, great, because every day doesn't look the same for a lot of roles, but that's another opportunity to go in and experience the role. If your college or university offers any type of experiential learning, like co-ops or things of that nature, participate in those. And if you've missed the boat on all of that, no fret. You can still find a mentor now. You can find somebody, preferably, in your organization, who can help you navigate that terrain.
I like that. Okay, let's talk about what, use the phrase navigating that terrain. What do you think that looks like in practical terms? What does it mean if somebody is like, well, I have to go navigate the terrain?
Yes. Navigating the terrain is about having guidance. And there are a number of guides that you need along the journey. There's no one size fits all. I think everyone should have at least 5 people in their arsenal. So the first person is your professional mentor. So somebody who's been laser focused on you getting from here to there in terms of your profession. Number 2 is a mentor who knows your environment. So that's somebody in your organization, in your company, that understands the politics, understands the culture, understands the way in which things are done in that organization. Then number 3, you need someone who understands your field or your role. So the person that's in your organization that's best placed may not be doing the job that you're actually doing. You need a mentor who actually does your job. So for instance, I mentor a number of people, or have in the past, who are in completely different fields than me. There are limitations to what I can mentor that person on and how I can help them. So having someone who's in your field, who speaks that language, is very key. I'll step back for a second in terms of the person in the environment. Think very broadly. A lot of times, particularly in large organizations, it's the people you don't think about who are the best place to help you. Executive assistants, admin, paralegals.
I'm telling you, I know we don't call them secretaries anymore, but secretaries are God. They run everything.
Exactly.
Everything.
They know everything. They know everyone. They know where the bodies are buried. They are golden. So be broad in your thinking when you think about someone in your environment. So we've got the professional mentor, the person in your organization, the person in your role. Then you want to have a mentor who is doing what you hope to be doing in the future. Ooh. Because they're going to be thinking about how to set you up, or how you set yourself up to get to a certain level, not just focus on the job that you're doing today.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, depending on how far along you are in your career, but you can do this early on as well, you need a coach. And a coach is different than a mentor. A mentor is somebody who's speaking from their experience and has done something that you're trying to do. A coach is someone, think about a team. If you're on a team, the coach doesn't necessarily play the sport, but they extract the best out of you in your playing of the sport. So you're looking for someone who can extract from you, help you articulate, and help you realize your goals. So those are the 5 people you need on your team to help you navigate.
I like that. We're getting really good questions in the chat thread here. Laverne has asked, how do you go about getting a coach or a mentor if you are unemployed or you're a student? This is a really good question, right? Because I mean, coaching it's not inexpensive, because you get what you pay for, at least for, for the most part. So what would you advise someone to do if they are, if they are under-resourced, either due to unemployment or their student status?
Okay, you're never under-resourced. So clear that out of your head. If you are a student, the school that you are attending has something. They have counselors. They have organizations that they can connect you to. Leverage the people that are there. Start with your counselors. Start with career services offices. Go to those places. That's what they're there for. Do not be ashamed about using them. Leverage professors. Professors can be great mentors. I particularly have an affinity for adjunct professors because they tend to be people in industry, in field, in whatever it is that you're trying to do, and not just professors. There is a difference between being a career teacher, professor, academician versus being in field and practicing. Start asking them. You never under-resourced. So that's if you're in school. If you're unemployed, LinkedIn. Okay.
Yes.
Did I say LinkedIn?
I think you said LinkedIn. Did you forget to say LinkedIn?
I think so, but just in case, LinkedIn. Go on LinkedIn. You can search for a company by name. If you want to work in the food and services industry, Google Coca-Cola, Google Keebler, Google General Mills. And then there's a button that you can click that says people. And it'll tell you all the people who are on LinkedIn that work at that company. And then if you click on that person, you can send that person a message. It's LinkedIn's version of a DM, okay? Send them a message and say, hi, my name is, I have a degree in, or I am studying X. I am interested in blah, blah, blah. Would you have 15 minutes to speak with me about your experience? Guess what? Everybody loves talking about themselves.
100%.
So, DM somebody on LinkedIn if you are unemployed. Those are the ways I would start.
I love that. And I'm very much appreciating the LinkedIn advice because, you know, when you first started talking about it, about how like, you know, LinkedIn gives you this opportunity to find out all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
At what other point in time could you be like, oh yeah, I met that guy at this like virtual event I went to, and when I click on his profile, I could see who he's friends with.
Yep.
At what other point do you get to like kind of comb through everybody else's Rolodex and figure out like, oh, they know that person, who knows that person, that's who I want to talk to. So, you know, it's absolutely an invaluable tool because people like talking about themselves. And
Mhm.
secondary to that, people like being helpful. They like doing something for someone. They'll tell you they don't, but they do.
And 15 minutes cost people nothing. Everybody
Yeah.
has 15 minutes.
Yeah, of course. Okay. One of the big things that you had said was to negotiate everything.
Mhm.
Besides salary, which I think is what most people think of when they think of negotiating, we think dollars and cents. What else is there to negotiate outside of the financial?
Everything, and everything is financial. Let me just put that out there. Everything is financial. Everything has a quantifiable value. So for example, if you earn $2,000 a week and you negotiate an extra week of vacation or PTO time, you have just earned yourself $2,000 more because that's $2,000 you don't have to work for. Everything is quantifiable, so everything is about the money. But to give you some ideas of other things to negotiate for, we're in this quasi post-pandemic world, flex time. You can negotiate flex time. Before, 2020, that would have been a harder negotiation, but nowadays that's pretty simple. A sign-on bonus. When you think about a sign-on bonus, especially if you are transitioning from one job to another, think about things like people often ask me, well, how much do I ask for? Think about what is it that you're losing or what gaps do you need to fill? So if you're leaving a job before your bonus gets paid out, for example, and you're going to a job where you're either only going to get a portion of a bonus because you're only there part of the year, or you may not qualify for the bonus. A sign-on bonus is a great way to make up that money. If you're moving across country, you're moving from one state to another and they don't have an official relocation process, there's a cost to moving. A sign-on bonus is a great way to get that money back. So think about what you're losing or where you have financial gaps in terms of requesting a sign-on bonus. Other things to negotiate for. If you work for a company that offers stock, a long-term incentive plan, so restricted stock, stock options, things of that nature, if they don't offer you the full salary you're looking for, you were hoping for, maybe think about a deferred stock bonus where in addition to the stock they would normally give you, you get another 500 shares in 6 months after you've delivered ABCD. Non-financial things to negotiate for. You own your development. It's yours, your development. Negotiate for the types of work that you want to do. If you know you want to try your hand at a different skill that's outside of your core function and role, negotiate for the ability to work on a project when the opportunity presents itself, doing whatever this thing is that you might want to do in the future. Professional development courses, grad school programs, certifications. These are all things that you can negotiate for. Even if your company has a tuition reimbursement policy, may not cover the entire cost. Ask them for the full cost if that's going to help advance their bottom line, because it's about them too, what's in it for them. So me getting this MBA is going to help you because I'll be able to then help you deliver ABC. Make sure they know it's about them, not you, but get that grad degree in there or a certification. Coaching, you want to coach and you don't have the resources to get the coach, ask your company to pay for the coach, ask to participate in coaching programs, mentoring programs. Those are all the types of things you should be thinking about in negotiations.
Oh, I love that. We were getting some really good questions from the chat thread here. Again, I feel like I'm saying I love that constantly, but like you have to understand, y'all, Samantha's spitting fire on this. This is the absolutely invaluable advice. I'm also loving the activity in the chat right now. So thank y'all for keeping that happen. A lot of people are sharing. Sarah especially said, for those who attended college, you can tap into the alumni network. They'll often provide career advising services or help with resumes for alumni for free. So absolutely check into that, y'all. Do not throw good money after bad. Try and see what you can get for free to start with. And hopefully the college students among us are, they're not like, keep in mind, y'all, that like, if it's free, it's better thing is it does not end once you leave college. Like, absolutely take advantage of the free stuff when you can.
Yep.
All right. Maya had asked, I am a neurodivergent customer service rep who's looking to move forward in my career in a new job. How do you negotiate or navigate your way into a new job when you're not sure how to be confident in your experience during an interview? So we get questions like this a lot, right? People are trying to transition from one field to another. Adding neurodivergency on top of it is always going to add extra, I don't say complications in a bad way, but there's extra things that go in there. And Maya, as somebody who's also neurodivergent, I see you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Samantha, what would you say to Maya?
Sure. And Maya, thank you for that question. And I have a neurodivergent son, so I understand where you're coming from. The first thing I would say is identify your transferable skills. Everything is transferable to somebody else in some way, shape, or form. So don't think about what you do in terms of the role that you're in. Unpack it and think about how you can leverage those skills somewhere else. So, for example, and I'll give a very basic example. If you waited tables in college as your side job, you have great customer service experience. You probably have great conflict resolution experience because I'm sure somebody threw a drink down or did something that you had to resolve. So you have multitasking abilities if you've waited multiple tables. So think about, break down what it is that you've done into those transferable skills, and then figure out which of those skills are highlighted or are necessary for that new role. And when you craft your resume should never be a one and done. So when you craft your resume for this role, highlight those transferable skills, highlight the things that you did that leverage those transferable skills. And again, LinkedIn, find somebody in the field you're trying to transition to. You'd be surprised. You may find somebody that transitioned into that field as well and can speak to you about how they did it. They can tell you the things that are going to stand out the most with that company, that organization, that industry that you've done. They can help you build that resume. So don't focus on what you're doing, focus on the skills that you're using to get it done.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, so true. And don't forget, y'all, the power of the internet is absolutely amazing. You can go in and Google like underwater basket weaving plus transferable skills, and people will share, what they have done. I mean, like, I mean, if I see food service or customer service on a resume, I immediately know that this person has a lot of skills they're not disclosing. But like, think about it, like you said multitasking, prioritization, crisis management. How many times did you like drop an entire plate of food and have to try and figure out how you're going to feed everybody at that table? Like, come on, there's a ton of great skills that you are developing as a person in the world that are absolutely applicable to, to new roles. So I'm loving that advice. All right, let's see. Okay, we have a couple questions coming in from the chat, so I'm going to try and get to as many of those as we can. Divya has asked, do you have any tips on how to navigate the job search for moms returning back to work? It's difficult to get a resume picked up if you have a gap in your career. Plus, think about being a mom. I'm sure you're probably still, oh, I'm so sorry. I just realized we are way over on time. Y'all, that is my bad. Hunter, thank you so much for keeping me honest. I'm so sorry. Samantha, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for sharing and being here with us today. I apologize we didn't get to all of the questions, but it was really, really nice to get to learn from you. So thank you so much.
No problem. And for those whose questions we weren't able to answer, go on LinkedIn, look for my name, drop me a DM, and I will respond to your question. You can also reach us on our website, www.jane-inc.org. Happy to connect with any of you.
Thank you so much, Samantha.